is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about Trump preparing for his big arrest, which so many people are eager to see that mugshot. I'm not gonna lie. It's probably going to be one of the most talked about photos of a decade might be mild to say. A lot of people are waiting for that to drop, whether they're going to put on t-shirts and hats, and I don't know, for people for him, people are against him. He has decided to just go, as, people were originally saying Ron DeSantis needs to stop them from coming for him and all that kind of stuff. Trump is going to control the situation as much as he can. So, he's going to go in and they will handle going through this case, which is a witch hunt. The left is trying to pretend like it's not a witch hunt, and I have a couple of really bad takes that I want to share with you guys today as far as that goes. Also, there's a Canadian, and I know there's people in Canada who watch Black Tea, but there's a Canadian weightlifter who is a man who decided to enter into a competition and set a new record, which is you'd say is an awful thing to do, but he did it to prove a point, because you can enter in the competition without being a woman. You can just identify as a woman. So he, went in full beard, and broke the record, which was held before by a trans woman. So just kind of delicious planning on that part. So we'll cover that story. Also, the Saudis are not pumping up their oil, which is something the Biden administration has been trying to get them to do. We've heard reports of this before, and the Biden White House was upset about it before, and just brace for more high prices. We're still not seeing, those pre-COVID numbers, or those Trump numbers. Gas is like $3.50-ish where I am. But it could easily go back up to $4 or more. So some economic news, but in the world, people are talking about so much cultural stuff, but that really, really impacts our pockets. And also, people are talking about the Dylan Mulvaney Budweiser thing. There's some people, I think there's outrage warranted for it, but I think some people don't understand how TikTok sponsorships and stuff work, which I don't know how all his sponsors work, because he has gotten more than I've had before, but I've had it before, so I want to walk through it and explain what's going on. But yeah, Budweiser doing an ad paid sponsorship with Dylan Mulvaney and making a special can, and doing other stuff. It's like, you guys don't care about your customer, huh? Not saying that people like Dylan and folks don't drink Budweiser, but is that really your key demo? I don't think so. So anyway, before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blackteanews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. That we have on there. Check out different merchandise that's available at the store, like some of my Roe Casey aborted stuff. I got the Constitution is a Glorious Liberty document. I just actually ordered that shirt for myself today. So I got the black tea mugs that are there. Also got the You Are Not That Special. I got those in a mug as well. So all kinds of stuff. You guys can check out the website. And if you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation to blacktnews.com. Go to the donate page and you can donate if you would like. It costs to stream, it costs to run my website, all that good stuff. When I do like kind of more special videos and there's different filters and other stuff on it, like, oh, your quality is so good. It's like, I make some of the stuff and some of it is like templates and other stuff, and you buy licenses to music, etc. So And there's other things that I need as well, like a different equipment, etc. So if you would just like to help with that overhead, help with expansion with Black Tea News, I thank you guys very much. Thank you guys to, people who have donated in the past, people who continue to do so. It really does mean a lot for people who are unable, or I don't know, maybe just don't want to. I thank you guys for still watching, for commenting, doing all that stuff. That has helped and does help as well. If you're watching on Facebook, you can send stars. If you're watching on YouTube, you can send super chats and stickers and other things like that. So God bless you for all the support. And lastly, I do want to mention that I do write books. I'm going to probably film this video after I get done, but I have, I guess now, about 16 published books, but 15 that are available right now at this moment. Out of the 16, 2 are fiction, and the nonfiction, the rest are fiction. So some people ask sometimes, like, especially because my audience is like mostly conservative, as I'm a conservative, but they ask like how appropriate is it for their kid, etc. So I'm gonna make a video kind of detailing that, not super detailed because I think I want to make it a short, but just want to say I don't write, I don't have swear words in my books. In the historical fiction fantasy books that take place during the Civil War era, the N word is in there. I don't write, that's the book, very good book. People really, really like that one. That's the one that is my most popular, I'd say. I don't write sex scenes. I'm kind of I'm a fade to black kind of person. I do write some steamy scenes, I suppose, but if you watch anything on like network TV, it's not any worse than that. If you don't like violence, I'm probably not the person for you. Everybody's throwing hands. Even a super kid, they throw hands at one point. So if you're just, I don't know, pacifist out there or something, my stuff's probably not for you. Some are more violent than others. And so you just kind of have to, we can go step by step and answer which one is more violent. If you have a question, and you write or something on social media, I'll try to answer it if I see it. But if you I have a page for my books, Ninja Does Publishing, on Facebook, and on, I guess just on Facebook. If you have a question on the website, I can answer it, and I'll see that stuff for sure. But if I see a question or something on social media, I will try to answer it again if I see it. So I'm a Christian, not, I wouldn't say are and stuff in there, but you wouldn't see them at like most of them at like a Christian bookstore or something like that. However, I don't glorify evil in my work. That's not something I do. Even though some things might be on the darker side, you can still tell a positive story about overcoming that darkness. And so much of my books is about overcoming the darkness in our humanity. So sometimes you get to darker places to tell a better story. And I mean, if you read the Bible, you get that. I mean, if you read the book of Judges, that is HBO. So just a little explanation, a quick explanation. So I thank you guys for your interest. Writing is what I really, really, truly love to do. So again, thank you for your interest. Anyway, let's move on, jump to the news. You guys know that I like to start with a meme. And I thought this one was a good, comic. So, how to flash in the woke era. And there's a man, he flashes, and pervert, he's arrested in indecent exposure. But if you have a trans towel and you do it at a spa or something, or a locker room, and you say you're trans, then they're gonna go after the mother, the kind mother trying to protect her child, as a bigot. So, nice little comic there to just sadly explain how the world is today and how utterly nuts and crazy it is. I'm going to go ahead and segue into the story that happened in Canada. So there is a bodybuilder, a weightlifter, a weightlifting coach who decided to enter into a women's tournament. And I don't see any comments or anything. I would assume it was obviously to prove a point because he's a man. He competes as a man, identifies as a man. But Mr. Silverberg here really, really proved a point here. But I want to show a video. I think I did download it of the person's record that he defeated going in, because they went viral on social media a couple months ago because they're asking a question about women not competing as well or doing as well. Reason I assume being is because they're women compared to men. So you'll see what I mean.
Says something controversial. Why is women's bench so bad? I mean, not compared to me. We all know that I'm a tranny freak, so that doesn't count. And no, we're not talking about Mackenzie Lee. She's got little T-Rex arms and she's like 400 pounds of chest muscle, apparently. I mean, standard bench in powerlifting competition for women, I literally don't understand why it's so bad. My son, he weighs 45 pounds. His max bench is like 33. I'm legit seeing some women in competition who are doing something like 50 pounds, and I just don't understand it. I don't understand why so many women are skipping bench and focusing on everything else. Yeah, that's my controversial thing today. I'm gonna go do some bench now.
So, yeah, people were, that went viral before. So, might be because you're a man, that you continue to do better than women. And it might be because your son is a boy and he can tend to do better than women. I'm just throwing that out there. The audacity for a man to just I do a video saying, why do you girls suck at this compared to dudes? Biology, the thing that you're trying to run away from, but it's just like billboard flashing lights in your face. But anyway, let's go to the story. Male powerlifter enters women's event, breaks record. I'm reading from the New York Post article. A bearded pro powerlifter entered a women's competition in Canada and smashed a record held by a trans lifter who was watching. Delicious. Avi Silverberg, the head coach for Team Canada Powerlifting, more than 10 years, entered Saturday's Heroes Classic tournament in Lethbridge, Alberta, after identifying as a female. Video shared by an athlete activist group, Independent Council on Women's Sports, shows him walking up to the platform, still fully bearded and wearing a regular man's singlet. Then he casually bench pressed nearly 370 pounds. I love how they say casually. Beating the current Alberta woman's record by almost 100 pounds, which he just beat the trans woman we just showed. That record, 275 pounds, was held by trans athlete Ann Andres, who was seen watching Silverberg while volunteering at the event. Again, chef's kiss. Andres also holds the Alberta woman's record for the deadlift at 544 pounds, giving him the local record of the total of all three lifts, lifting a combined 1,245 pounds. A trans lifter won 8 of 9 competitions entered in the women's category over the last 4 years. As Silverberg broke his record, which New York Post does write her, but I'm just, correcting as go along. Andre stood off to the edge of the platform area, only strolling back on after the male lifter walked off. Icon said Silverberg mocked the discriminatory discriminatory Canadian powerlifting union policy that allows competitors to register for events under the gender identity and expression rather than their sex or gender, vowing no consequences for doing so. CPU's trans policy states that an individual should be able to participate in the gender with which they identify and not be subject to requirements for disclosure of personal information beyond those required of cisgender athletes. It also states, nor should there be any requirement for hormonal therapy or surgery. However, the union's competition registration policy states that a competitor's government-issued photo identification, excluding youth lifters, must be verified during the weigh-in or equipment check, including date of birth, province, and gender at all competitions. It is unclear if Silverberg presented a government-issued ID identifying him as a female or was required to. Repeated messages left for the CPU's board of directors and executive staff were not returned Thursday. Silverberg is among those executive members listed on the CPU's website as a vice president in Alberta. He did not immediately agree to request to be interviewed. So, that's amazing. And I don't want this men to have to make that point, because now both these people have overtaken women's records and outshine where women should have shine. But I guess thank you for stepping up when there was other men coming on to overthrow women and people weren't listening. I saw videos of I believe it was a previous tournament, and there are women dressed in black because they're mourning the death of women's sports, and the people there sent one of the police to come to get them, or said they're going to call the police, but they asked them to leave or not cause a ruckus. And I don't know what it was coming from this Icons page, so I don't know what was all happening. This is their side of the story, but they were saying they were being disruptive because they were cheering for actual women and not the trans person. So that's what they claim was what they saw as disruptive, and they wanted them to leave. So people weren't listening to women. They had this obscene policy, so a man stepped in and showed how absolutely ridiculous a policy is. So I wonder if there would be some reflection there, but I mean, that doesn't mean that they will reverse it and say that only biological women can compete in that category. They might just, go with, you have to prove that you have been transgender for X amount of years, or might put other stipulations on it. So it was a good, message, and I don't know that it's going to overturn all the ridiculousness. Canada's got some weird stuff up there. But, I see people in my comments sometimes like, we're praying for you guys up in Canada. I'm just like, how bad are things here? In the United States of America. But I'm glad to at least see that, and that they're seeing people standing up at different places. So again, kudos to Avi there. Great job. Moving on. I guess we'll just go into the Dylan Mulvaney thing, since we're on this sort of cultural topics, and we'll get to the other stuff next. But so there's this balance of how much do you talk about this, because you talking about it is going to elevate that person, but at the same time they already have tens of millions of followers. And even if they didn't, the reason why I know about Dylan Mulvaney, because I'm not in that sort of algorithm on TikTok where he would just naturally pop up in my feed. The reason why I know about Dylan Mulvaney is because these big brands like Ulta decided to post him and uplift him, and then people started looking deeper into his videos and him, going through the woods and his hiking hills and stuff like that. So, and then he was interviewed by the president. Now this brought Dylan on, and he interviewed Joe Biden. And you don't get more legit than sitting down and interviewing the president of the United States. So I think if people, we cannot draw attention to this, that doesn't mean it's just gonna all go away. Because these major brands are still using them to virtue signal, and you still have these really high institutions of power that are gung ho on making them a thing. So it's kind of, it's a two-edged sword, because the more people on the right push back, people on the left push back even harder, just to be resentful, just to be frank, just to be frank. But there's also this: if you don't stand up, then these minority voices, and we'll just speak up and overrun the majority of the world who thinks this is all nuts. And then they'll be so loud, and then the media and academia and entertainment and the president, all these folks will be speaking so loudly that there's going to be people afraid to speak up, which we already see that now. People write all the time in my comments, like, I'm glad you are saying this. There are people who stand with you. They are just too afraid to say something. And they're in positions where if they said something, they will, I don't know, could lose their job or lose scholarships or lose. I mean, there's real stakes for some people out there. And if people don't push back and say enough is enough, it's just going to keep going in a particular trajectory. There's a video by Jeffrey Marsh that he put out. I don't know if he put it out this weekend, but it got traction this weekend. And he said the trajectory is only going one way, and we will be respected. That was his demand of us. That if you don't know Jeffrey Marsh, I've done some videos on Jeffrey Marsh, but he's a creepy guy who says there's no such thing as biology and boys and girls. There's no such thing as boys and girls. He says the hey kids guy, him. So he said, you will respect us. This is only going one way. And they expect that it's only going to go one way. So if you don't push back against it going the way of shut up and surrender and submit, then that's precisely what's going to happen. So I don't want to talk about this all the time. I particularly don't want to talk about this person all the time. And just despite how many clicks and views and stuff that he garners, and like I said, it's a two-edged sword. And I'm sure that's one reason why it's for sure a reason why his popularity is for sure a reason why Budweiser and these folks go to them. But if we don't stand up and say we don't appreciate this to those brands and stuff, then it's just going to keep exploding and we'll have no options. So Dylan Mulvaney, it popped up that he was doing brand stuff for Budweiser. So I will show you the weird ads that he did and kind of explain how, at least on my end, how these kind of things come about. Because people are like, oh, he's a new brand ambassador. I don't know. Or if someone said he's a new face of Budweiser and stuff, it's not that deep that I think they're like gonna put him on TV or something. You'll see Dylan in a Super Bowl ad or something. Like I don't think it's going that deep, but there's different structures on TikTok for people who are influencers for the brands to set up and make, money and stuff. So let me show you the content and then we will go from there. So one of these things is so freaking weird. It's one of the weirdest things. This is the least weird, not the least, but the less weird one.
Impressive carrying skills, right? I got some Bud Lights for us. So, I kept hearing about this thing called March Madness, and I thought we were all just having a hectic month, but it turns out it has something to do with sports. And I'm not sure exactly which sport, but either way, it's a cause to celebrate. This month, I celebrated my day 365 of womanhood, and Bud Light sent me possibly the best gift ever, a can with my face on it. Check out my Instagram story to see how you can enjoy March Madness with Bud Light and maybe win some money too. Love ya! Cheers! Go team! Whatever team you love, I love too. Okay. Love ya. Okay, break a leg. Woo!
Such a weirdo. So if you're doing a March Madness thing, it probably he has 10 million followers. So I mean, opportunity for them to do whatever. But if you're doing March Madness thing, which obviously they're partnering and doing something with March Madness because a lot of people who watch sports will drink alcohol and that all kind of goes together. So using Dylan, who does not apparently, at least as his character, doesn't know what March Madness is. Um, wouldn't that be like in normal circumstances for ads like an issue? But I don't know. I'm not a big sports person. I don't, the only thing that I was consistently watching was like American Ninja Warrior. I've never sat down and watched a Super Bowl or anything like that. I used to come in and watch commercials. Now I just don't care. So I'm not a big sports person. Um, there's a stereotype of women not being into it, but a lot of women really love sports. A lot of women are really, really into it. So um, he's not the best brand ambassador for their actual target market. I'm also not an alcohol person. I've never had any at all. I don't like how it smells. I don't like how it makes people act. I'm leaving this world stone cold sober. So this is like totally not my juice at all. But here's the weird one. Here's the weird one.
Less than 96 minutes. We thank you for your patience.
Sorry, are you still there?
Yes.
Okay, please hold.
Okay, that was it. I saw someone say on Twitter it was legitimately the weirdest thing they've ever seen in their life. That was weird, and he's a dancer, so at least a tapper, right? So what the heck was that? Just a rhythmless blob of gross. Like there's lots of questions. Like how many women sit around enjoying a bra in their bathtub? It's not normally a thing. I, it's really weird, guys. I don't have a lot of commentary to dive into how weird it is. I think it's pretty evident. But okay, so anyway, if you sign up on TikTok to be part of their creative fund and get sponsorships from different brands, and TikTok doesn't set that up. There's like different notifications and rules or whatever that you do, but the brands will find people that they want to work with, and they will give you some kind of offer, and you can go back and forth negotiating whatever, but you can accept the offer, and they'll have different stipulations, and that's basically it. Like from so I've done it before, and like a brand just reaches out, and you accept it, and they have different things that they want you to say in the ads, different things that they want you to do, and then they approve it, and that's kind of it. So Budweiser, like, corporately, were they thinking, oh yeah, we got to get Dylan Mulvaney? It might not even like be that deep. I mean, there's someone who's over that reaching out to people to do stuff for sure. But I don't know how deep they even he is a big brand. So I don't know how people could not know. But they might not think that deeply about his actual content to be like, I don't know, that might like tank us. Because I think some people reach out in mind to people who are in their niche, who would them reaching out and saying something to their customers would do something for their clients. But in the case for the ones that I did, it had really nothing to do with the kind of content that I produced at all. And some accounts that they used, they weren't even like really big as well. So it might not be that personal or that deep on Budweiser's part. So people ready to pull out the pitchforks for Budweiser. I still think that people should know, like, bruh, this ain't cool. But I just do want to put that perspective there. People probably expect me to just come in here and just rip them. Like, this is all weird. I don't like Dylan, and but I just want to let you know a little bit of that peek behind the curtain of what goes on. There's a possibility that they're like, oh yeah, we got to get Dylan because he's so popular, and we want to really reach that audience. But it could be there's someone in the company who does stuff with TikTok. He has a huge account with 10 million followers, and they wanted people to know about the participation March Madness thing, and didn't think that deeply about it. Now, should marketing people reaching out doing stuff for paid sponsorships and whatnot think a little deeper on it? I think so, but I don't know how deep they think about this stuff on TikTok. So just want to add that 2 cents in that perspective. However, Budweiser does have other stuff where they clearly do want to do some particular marketing toward the LGBT, and so this is a can that they did. This is what and you got Bethany here. Mandel said this is what happens when you use a marketing and advertising agency that has never met one of your customers. So I think people who are in the LGBT community obviously drink Bud Light, but is like that. Is Dylan Mulvaney, their core sort of audience that Dylan allegedly doesn't know what March Madness is. This is not their core sort of audience. So stuff like this, and I understand that you want to make people feel included and whatnot, but if you need to go out of your way to make stuff like that to make people feel included, then you've probably done a bad job as a brand, period. If you need a rainbow on a can for people to know who are gay that it's okay to drink a Bud Light. That's probably, you failed somewhere in your company product, in your brands or whatever. And if you have a good enough product, it doesn't care. People don't care anyway. Do you know how many people who try to cancel Chick-fil-A, and I see LGBT people are like, y'all better leave that chicken alone. Like, I will go to Chick-fil-A. I don't care what them Christians say. Like, leave the chicken alone. So this kind of stuff isn't necessary, but it's for virtue. It is, and sometimes negative press, you get people who might want to protest or not buy it, but then you get a boost of people who want to support you because you did it. And then it's also a question of how many people are going to stick to their guns and really be like, I'm going to teach this company a lesson. People say that, but people, get tired real quick. But again, this is, not my thing. But companies are doing it all the time. I'm not big on makeup. So the Ulta thing, I've been inside of an Ulta store, but I don't know if I've bought anything in an Ulta store. I usually go a corner store or something, a beauty supply store or something, and pick up a few things. But people boycotted Ulta. People were mad at Tampax. I don't use Tampax. When they started doing stuff with Dylan. Now that is super weird. And Dylan knew it was weird when Tampax reached out to him because he actually did TikTok like responding to the weirdness of it. So that was really, really weird, and they sent it to him. So they deserve some ire from that. Oh, thank you very much for the super chat from Just Jen Reacts. Gonna say, hey girl, never caught a live, so I'm proud of you standing up, calling out this BS. Down for a collab in the future. I'll have to look you up. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Yeah, so a lot of people do this stuff for virtue. Again, I don't want to talk about this stuff all the time. I wish it wasn't so everywhere. But if people don't say something and stand up to this stuff, and again, it's a two-edged sword, people will react badly just because we're talking about it. So I don't, there's a balance we're still trying to figure out, I think. But if you're just silent and let the world be taken over, and Jeffrey Marsh said this stuff has one trajectory, if we just stay silent forever, you're going to prove him right. You're going to prove him right. Okay. So we gotta do something. So again, freaking weird. Dylan is so fortunate that this is such a fad, because that little dance in the bathtub and I don't know, some people find him to be funny. He's just a blob of weird to me, and a very annoying person. But there's a lot of people who like his humor, but I think a lot of it is just the glow of people feel like defending and sticking up for him and clapping like a trained seal. That gives them virtue. And I don't need to buy any. So I'm not interested in being a trained seal, I suppose. Anyway, let's move on. So as I mentioned, Trump is on his way to deal with being, indicted, arraigned, and I never thought he was going to run or try to haul up in Mar-a-Lago and have himself be pulled away in handcuffs or anything like that. So I just figured he would come in, peacefully. People are really waiting to see that the mugshot. It was trending earlier. I was like, is it out? It couldn't be out yet, is it? So I don't say that like gleefully, like, oh, I'm glad he's getting arrested, so there's a mugshot. I just, I'm just curious what it'll be. I think like most people. And these charges are pretty ridiculous, and there's some hysteria from the media how they're covering it that is just really bonkers to me. Even like left-wing people like Mr. Mistal, who once said the Constitution is garbage, trash. That guy his hair is kind of like this black guy. He thought it was the charges were wonky. So there's even people on the left that realize that this is a very, very weak case. Out of all the things that are kind of against Trump, this is probably one of the weakest things. But this stuff has been dropped before by other people. But you got Braggs, or who's the DA who's doing it. I don't know. He wanted to get Trump. A lot of people wanted to get Trump. His name is in the news. There's other things that are very serious that he doesn't want to go after, and prosecute and stuff in New York. But Trump is the whale, the Moby Dick, that they have to go after. So I assume he's going to get off with this and be able to prove his innocence, which the state is supposed to prove that he's guilty. But there's a lot of people who have it backwards. Nancy Pelosi made like a statement the other day that was like, you're innocent, and we're supposed to presume that he's innocent, and that you're supposed to prove that he's guilty. But they just want him to go in. But S.E. Cups, who on CNN said a rant that was pretty outrageous to me. So I just wanted to show you guys it.
There are people who are outraged by this indictment. They were not outraged by Trump's attempt to overturn a democratic election. They were not outraged by the violence on January 6th. They were not outraged by an illegal phone call to the Georgia Secretary of State, an illegal phone call to Volodymyr Zelensky. They are not outraged by multiple credible accusations of sexual harassment, assault, and rape. They're not outraged by Trump's sexist, bigoted, homophobic, xenophobic rhetoric. They're not outraged by his white nationalism. They're not outraged by his defense of anti-Semitism and neo-Nazis. They're not outraged by all that stuff. So with all due respect, no one should care that these people are outraged by this indictment.
So that's such a bad take. So if there's something, let's put Trump aside right now. So if there's something going on in the world that is bad or people see as an injustice, you're saying they have no right to be outraged or upset about it if they're not upset about a list of other things going on as well. And stuff she said just was, is there a person in the world who was like not outraged by all those things? First of all, the phone calls weren't illegal. Like, there's that. There's just a lot of things, and the stuff that she said was wrong. I'm like, who credibly accused him of rape? I'm like, I saw people like constantly post stuff again and again and again, and there's like cases that will always go away. They pop up and they come back, and they're just things that weren't like legit and stuff. But I mean, that was just talking point. But if, like she said, they weren't outraged when he tried to overthrow a democratically elected president, whatever. I'm like, but the people who were on his side believed that he was wronged. They don't believe that. And I have disagreements with a lot of people about different stuff, like, but if you're going by their mindset, they believed that Trump was elected properly, or that it was stolen from him. That's what people believe. So if they believed that thing there, and they believe that he's being unfairly indicted, how are you going to say it's wrong for them to be outraged now? And if they weren't outraged then, they were outraged. They were outraged that they thought it was stolen from Trump, according to them. So it's, and she's supposed to be a conservative. And so people say S.E. Cups has like really warped their thinking or made them cynical, I guess, because how is it possible to so dramatically change yourself and it based on a paycheck? So maybe the stuff that she was saying before, she didn't actually believe. I don't believe that like Trump like just rapidly changed so many people. I mean, there's people who legitimately change their views, but there's so many people who shill for money. This was just, Rachel Maddow could have said that rant. But there are plenty of people who went there who peacefully protested, who didn't like the violence, spoke out against the violence, and or still believe that Trump had to make a claim about the election, and would have preferred for him to do that, not in the boisterous way that he ended up going, but still thinks that there was shady stuff done, but still was like, oh yeah, it was absolutely a riot. So to list that everybody who you think supported Trump was okay with like everything that she said in the way that she said, and now they have no right to be upset, or we should ignore them that they're upset. If this is an injustice, and it looks like it's just an injustice, unless there's just stuff we just don't know, that Bragg just like found that everyone else who dropped the cases didn't come to that conclusion. If it is an injustice, why wouldn't everyone across the political aisle just think it's an injustice and be upset about it? Now I'm upset on principle. I'm not like extraordinarily passionate about it right now, I guess. But on principle, it's a trashy thing. I don't like it, and I can recognize that it looks like a grave injustice has been done. People are saying no one's above the law, but it's like, okay, but the law is still the law, and just because you hate someone doesn't mean that you improperly go after someone because they were in a high position of power and you hate their guts and you resent the fact that they got there, you know. If everyone is equal and everyone is fair, would you treat someone else in the same situation as you were treating this man? I don't think so. Obviously, I don't think so. So her commentary was outrageous, but I want to play Jen Psaki for a little bit, what she was saying. And Jen Psaki, our former press secretary, who always had to circle back to us, she had some thoughts as well.
To Truth Social to call the indictment an attack on our country and our once free and fair elections. No irony at all there. And then there was Ron DeSantis, who called it weaponization of the legal system. Speaker Kevin McCarthy claimed Alvin Bragg weaponized our sacred system of justice. Even Governor Glenn Youngkin, the supposed post-Trump future of the Republican Party, rushed out with a similar statement of his own. To me, this is all pure projection. To me, the only people who are weaponizing and politicizing what shouldn't be a political process at all are these leading Republicans. And they're doing this for one reason.
So, she's saying they're the ones who are weaponizing the weaponization of the Justice Department. Again, either you can look at the facts of the case and believe that there is some kind of injustice going on, or there's not. And going after a former president who people who've openly said, I'm going to indict him without having cases, like people were saying that we're going to get Trump, we're going to arrest Trump. There's so many people who've had conversations like, oh, Trump is going to jail. And I'd be like, for what? And people would not have an answer. They just wanted this to manifest, like spoken into existence. They searched for a crime until they got something. Right. So, yes, people feel like this is a weaponization, and most people, I think, if they were honest, could reach that conclusion, whether they personally want to see him arrested and in jail or not. However, there's a lot of hacks out there. There's something else. My Secretary of State said something crazy the other day. Nancy Pelosi already mentioned this, but she said the grand jury has acted upon the facts of the law. No one is above the law, and everyone has a right to a trial to prove innocence. Hopefully, the former president will peacefully respect the system, which he ended up doing. But yeah, the point of everything is you're supposed to prove guilt. He can defend himself and help, but they're supposed to prove guilt. He is innocent. You're supposed to prove that he's guilty. That's the whole point of everything. And my Secretary of State, I've mentioned this a few times, but Jocelyn Benson, not last Tuesday, but the Tuesday before, I think when he was supposed to be indicted, or when Trump claimed he was going to be indicted, she tweeted out something along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing, but she's like, here's just a reminder, if someone is held accountable for trying to overthrow an election, it's not a witch hunt. If that happens, it's just like justice. And I'm like, if you're referring to Trump, what he's being arrested for regarding like payments to Stormy Daniel, that has nothing to do with like the 2020 election, like trying to overturn it or whatever. So if you think they're connected, and if they are connected, then it would be a witch hunt. It speaks to there's a different motive going on for the reasons why you did what you did. So another thing that she had said, Molly Jong Fostet wrote, do Republicans really think that there's a pool of persuadable voters who will be drawn to a candidate with multiple criminal indictments? And Jocelyn Benson said, no, but that's not the strategy. The strategy is to cast so much doubt in rules, laws, elections, and governance that people stop believing in the efficiency or integrity of government and then are deterred from voting or participating at all, opening up the path for autocracy, which, by the way, I don't think that people on the left are being discouraged to vote and et cetera, blah, 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 in the system. It's people on the right who are very discouraged from voting. So I don't even know why she would care. It's not a good strategy on the right for people, but people are like continuously undermining, talking about issues in the system. But we see this attitude growing and growing, and it's not good that people feel that it's just pointless to go ahead and vote. Like there's a whole host of issues that are wrong with the right and the Republican Party right now. That's going to be challenges for them to win, for a lot of different reasons. But I replied to Jocelyn Benson, don't you think indicting a former president on flimsy charges by a woke Soros-funded DA who was normally soft on crime makes people doubt the system? So usually if you're going to go after some kind of political opponent to this degree that they're going to be arrested and stuff, you want to make sure that you have a very, 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 very solid case. And this is so flimsy. And so to a lot of people, like Jen Psaki talked about Ron DeSantis and other people who spoke up, as if they're just speaking up because they want to appeal to Trump's base. Now, I think if you're an honest person, you would say this kind of sets a new precedent, because it is so flimsy, and it does really look like a witch hunt. It does really, really look like a witch hunt. So that puts doubt in the systems. And you know what? After the election, which, here's my YouTube disclaimer, Joe Biden is the president, FYI. So they're not like, oh, she's denying the results of the 2020 election. Got to put in that little disclaimer there. Joe Biden is the president. He has the power to sign things and executive orders and such and such. Anyway, if you keep undermining the system here, people are just going to believe that it's not worth voting, or that something is continuously rigged. After the election, the 2020 election, was it Time Magazine put out an article that said, the headline was like, our shadow campaign to save democracy. And they listed like what they did to have like Zuckerbucks put into different organizations, which, by the way, Jocelyn Benson, who's a Secretary of State, had like a nonprofit, and Zuckerberg poured in a lot of money into this nonprofit that wasn't like taking in any sort of money and stuff really before, at least not to the amount that he was giving. So I don't want to say they laundered it or anything like that, go that far to say it, but it was, a lot of people got a lot of money and got to do what they wanted to push the elections in the way that they wanted, as far as like influencing voters and whatnot. So there was a heavy hand of people influencing the election, whether people believe that stuff happened at the polls as far as switching votes. Like I don't make that case, but it's very obvious that people were behind the scenes doing stuff to get the results that they wanted. I think that's part of the reason why the country was shut down. Hunter Biden's laptop was suppressed on social media to just get a particular result of the election. So all those things are bad. All those things are bad. So people who have a distrust of the system really have reason to distrust the system. And I don't think arresting a former president who's running for president right now is good, unless it was a slam dunk case like that we could see going in. And but let's go back to Miss Circleback. Let's circle back to Circleback.
Because Donald Trump is still the leader of the Republican Party. If you had any doubt, their following him this past week confirms that. And they're scared of losing the support of his base. So where does that leave Democrats? And what should they be doing about the indictment news? Let me start with what I don't think you should be doing. As much as you may want to, now is not the time for a mass order of lock 'em up t-shirts and mugs. That's exactly what Trump and his supporters would do. Now is also not the time for Democratic candidates to sell.
Okay, she's crazy, because people are totally going to have lock 'em up mugs and t-shirts and stuff, just like people on the right are going to have t-shirts and stuff with Trump, like raising his gangsta profile of now that he's going to jail. He already had the money, the golden toilets, and all that stuff, and now he's going to jail. Like, oh, everybody's gonna merchandise off of this for sure. So, her saying now's not the time to do that. It's already done for folks. It's in the queue. People, just waiting on certain stuff to drop. So, that's she's just talking to a wall right there.
Celebrate, to brag, to predict the outcome of the legal cases. If you can, I'd actually just put your head down and stay out of it for now. President Biden and the White House will lean into the long-standing policy that they don't comment on ongoing criminal investigations, which was the policy, by the way, long before them, for decades, through Democratic and Republican presidents. That's not only the right thing to do, but in this case, it's also good politics. And if you're sitting in the White House right now, you're making what I think is the right bet, that the public cares a whole lot more about what the president is doing to actually make their lives better than what he thinks about a hush money payment to an adult film star.
So, I don't think people think that Biden is making their lives better. So maybe they would actually think that they care more about the whole, not so much Trump's payment to Stormy, but is this a witch hunt, and does everyone see that and acknowledge that there's some kind of injustice being done here? But as far as like the no comment thing, they would do no comment on things that would hurt them. That if they said certain things, if they didn't want to talk, it was no comment. I feel like they talked quite a bit. When she was press secretary, Biden now, when Biden, and definitely when Biden was on the campaign trail, Obama spoke out of turn with some stuff too, in my opinion. And when Trump wouldn't do no comment and stuff, they didn't appreciate it, when they wanted there to be a comment. So, I think she's kind of taking a dishonest stance, but granted, what I'm about to mention, Biden was not in the White House, but he was still a former vice president. And he was running against Trump. This was a very volatile situation in the country. But if you recall, let's go back in time a bit. Let's go back in time to Waukesha. I mean, sorry, not Waukesha. That was a different case. To Kenosha. When Jacob Blake was shot, was Joe Biden and Kamala Harris silent? Again, he wasn't in the White House, but he's still a former vice president. Running for president. This was on the campaign trail. He's all like, we got to heal the soul of the nation. You had the George Floyd stuff that had happened, and this Kenosha riots and stuff that ended up breaking out. We're all very familiar with it because that's where Rittenhouse was at. And then his trial was, hot stuff in the nation. So this is a statement by Vice President Joe Biden on the shooting of Jacob Blake in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Yesterday in Kenosha, Wisconsin, Jacob Blake was shot 7 times in the back as police attempted to restrain him from getting into his car. His children watched from inside the car, and bystanders watched in disbelief. And this morning, the nation wakes up yet again with grief and outrage that yet another Black American is a victim of excessive force. This calls for an immediate, full, and transparent investigation, and the officers must be held accountable. What if they were found that they didn't do anything wrong? Which we have hindsight looking back. The police officer who shot him, they didn't do anything to him. They investigated it, but they found that he did nothing wrong. But he's like, this is a terrible thing, excessive force. We need a transparent investigation, but they must be held accountable. Okay? These shots pierce the soul of our nation. I hate when he talks about that, man. Jill and I pray for Jacob's recovery and for his children. Nothing about the mother of the children, equal justice has not been real for Black Americans and so many others. We are and I think it's so funny when Biden says stuff like, he tweeted out once that black women have never gotten ahead in this country or something. I'm like, you've been in office for how long? Since Nam. And you haven't done anything to improve the country, that you think that black women have just never gotten ahead or whatever. Like, that's on you, bro. You've been part of the government. That, like, you're telling us your resume, and you're saying it's trash, but you want to be president. So anyway, equal justice has not been the real for Black Americans and so many others. We are at an inflection point. We must dismantle systemic racism. It is the urgent task before us. We must fight. I'd bet Biden an ice cream cone that he wouldn't properly explain systemic racism. We must fight to honor the ideas laid in the original American promise, which we are yet to attain, that all men and women are created equal, but more importantly, that they must be treated equally, which they don't even believe this, because in the Democratic platform, they say that we can't solve like inequality by neutral race policies. So they actually believe that we have to treat people unequally. That's in the Democrat Party platform right now. You can look it up. It's in their section Soul of America. And they're, saying all their jargon and stuff, but they let you know that they don't believe in neutral race-based policies, which Biden, as soon as he got in office, he started instituting like racist policies. So Kamala Harris actually said that she was proud of Jacob Blake. And the reason why the police were called is because his girl said he like digitally assaulted her. And the police officer shot him so excessively. One, he had a knife. People weren't reporting that he had a knife or whatever, but he had a knife. He was armed. And he was going for it. He wasn't listening to commands or whatever, but the officer was afraid that he was going to get in the car and drive off with the kids and use them as a hostage or whatever. He doesn't know them his kids or whatever. Not for sure. He comes on the scene. There's a hostile dude. He's reaching for a knife. He's not stopping. And he's in a car with kids and he could just drive off. So in his mind, those kids are in danger. What am I to do? Save the day. So guess what? They did an investigation. Nothing happened to the police officers, but people were upset and protesting, which Jacob Blake lived. He's paralyzed, and then people were rioting in Kenosha, and those were crazy riots in the height of like the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. I did a show like walking back in time, talking about all this stuff, and then showing the different stuff that was going on that night. How people were being treated, the rioting, the looting, the violence, the threats from people who just wanted to get to A to B, and they're like, you gotta go, like started beating on their cars and all kinds of different stuff. So and the Kyle Rittenhouse case was just crazy. I was reading an AP article talking about the officer who got off, and they went back, talked about Jacob Blake a little bit, and then they went to Kyle Rittenhouse. Where like the right really, in retaliation to Black Lives Matter, conservatives really jumped on Kyle Rittenhouse. I'm like, that is not why people stood up for Kyle Rittenhouse. That is not why people stood up for Kyle Rittenhouse. It was a clear cut like stuff from what we saw that he defended himself. And they were ready to throw the book at this kid. There were so many lies surrounding the case, so many things that were shady, things that didn't make sense. Even stuff during the trial didn't make sense. And then at one point you had one of the victim, who wasn't a victim, but Gage who went after him and said, that Kyle didn't shoot until he came at him. And it's like, obviously self-defense. So you had all this footage everywhere. Thank God there was all this footage everywhere. If there wasn't, maybe that kid would be in jail. And whether you like him or not, or now from stuff he said afterwards, the stuff that's come out about him, it doesn't really matter. But the facts of the case were that this was self-defense, and people are still angry that he got off for defending his life. So but all that exploded because of the Jacob Blake situation and Kamala Harris and Biden. Like, no one wanted to calm it down. When Trump was on the debate stage with Joe Biden, and they were talking about, I think it was the first one with Chris Wallace, and Trump was like, we can send in the National Guards, but I can't send in the National Guards because he didn't want to override or overrule anyone. He's like, they gotta let me in, they gotta let us come in. And so Chris Wallace asked Joe Biden, I think before he was like, I'm the face of the Democrat Party or whatever, and he was like, well, why don't you call them and say, hey, why don't you, and encourage these people to let Trump help. And he's like, who am I? And I'm like, bruh, you're at least the former vice president of the United States. You can't call like some people in Washington state and be like, hey, can you just cooperate and try to like get the crime fixed? Because we got some crazy riots going on. Like, there couldn't be some like call for like a crop. You know, you'll get old presidents together to when there's some kind of disaster relief to be like, hey, knock it off. People couldn't be like, hey, trust the justice system. Don't go out and do crazy stuff. But no, that it was convenient for them to let the world go into chaos because it just made everyone feel like Trump was the author of chaos and that they needed something different. So they didn't care at the end of the day that people were losing their livelihoods, that people were assaulted in the streets, and Biden thinks he can do stuff or not do stuff or whatever because he can get away with it. And I hate that we kind of keep proving him right. But back to Jen Psaki's point about how people say no comment and just kind of stay out of stuff, and that's good policy. It's probably good policy, but it's also not what they do. They definitely pick and choose. So I just wanted to go back in time and remind people that this was a very volatile situation, and they did what they could to make it worse. Kamala Harris went to go visit them, by the way. So and then she like tweeted the Minnesota Freedom Fund to help bail out protesters, and they don't even care about cash bail. They'll get out anybody because they just don't like it. Cash bail. So even if you're like accused of like assault, murder, or whatever, they will get you out. And actually, someone they helped to get out went on to go like commit murder allegedly. So she tweeted them out. Steve Carell, Harry Styles, a bunch of people. It's funny though that if there's like a mother in need or something, I don't know, maybe why don't they have the same kind of energy for like helping people day to day? Like if there was a crisis pregnancy center, was like, hey, we want to help this mother out. Can we like, you know, so these women will keep their babies and stuff and help give them the support. Would you get the same kind of reaction from Kamala Harris and Harry Styles and Steve Carell, whatever, to at least retweet and give out some money for themselves to help, you know, people choose life? I don't think so. I don't think so, because that's on the wrong side of their political spectrum. Last thing I want to mention before I go today is that the AP wrote a story about the Saudis and other oil giants announced surprise production cuts. I don't know how much of a surprise it is because they've been saying that they wouldn't do it, but Dubai, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and other major oil producers on Sunday announced surprise cuts totaling up to 1.15 million barrels per day from May until the end of the year, a move that could raise prices worldwide. Higher oil prices would help fill Russian President Vladimir Putin's coffers as his country wages war in Ukraine and force Americans and others to pay for even more. So this isn't good stuff, guys. Right now, gas around me is like $3.59. It's between like $3.39, $3.59 in my area. I see some people in Michigan in the chat. When I said Jocelyn Benson, they're like, "Oh, you're pressed too." That's not what they said, but we're living under Whitmer's tyranny. Yeah, so gas. That's what gas is around me right now. other places it's obviously higher out on the West Coast. Usually if you go south, it tends to be a little cheaper, but last time when I drove to DC, I didn't really see prices vary that much. So it just seems like it's kind of high everywhere. Now, 350 is like way less than it was, when was it last year when the prices were crazy, like $7, $8 and stuff. We didn't get to $7 here, but it was like 5. What was the height? Like 550, maybe. That's crazy that it even got that. I would have never thought $5 gas was crazy. We just kept saying like, do you think it's gonna go up to 5? And then it once it got to up to 4, it just shot right up to 5 like immediately. There was no like getting used to 4. So it says, so with an average of U.S. price now at roughly $3.50 per gallon on regular, according to AAA, that could mean gasoline over $4 per gallon during the summer. So that it kind of just depends on what kind of demand there is, because we go into recession and people might be like, I can't afford to travel. But sometimes people are like, it's the summer, I'm going to travel regardless. And then that demand will cause it to go up higher. So, brace yourselves, guys. Do what you can to save a little bit and prepare for the pain. But Biden and them, they were trying to get the Saudis and them to produce more oil, and they weren't doing that. So and we've tapped into our reserves, and Biden makes the oil companies very, very afraid. Because he very much talks like he wants to destroy their industry, which, by the way, people who didn't take him seriously when he repeatedly said it on the campaign trail, he said it repeatedly on the campaign trail. I don't know what else to tell you. Kamala Harris said it best: when you vote, you get what you asked for. And so I don't deserve the high gas prices, but I think I'll be like, if you voted for him, that's, 'cause Biden even said like he would be willing to damage the growth in the economy to stop like to go after like fossil fuels and other stuff. That was something that he said like in the debates among other Democrats when there were still other options, but they were all saying crazy stuff. They were all saying crazy stuff at the time. But Biden like kept saying the crazy stuff, and even like recently he said stuff like, "Oh, we'll need oil for at least 10 years." It's like, just 10? Do you know how much stuff people use oil for? Like, I was late to church the other day because I couldn't find my stockings. Guess what stockings are made out of? No, we're not going to be done with fossil fuels or oil or whatever in like 10 years. And it makes people very scared to commit to build refineries and do these big projects that take time, but they're worth doing because you expect everyone needs it. So you expect a return on your investment. But when you want to cripple these industries, it makes people nervous, and that's not good for the economy. So I don't prepare for let's hope for better. Let's hope for lower prices, but not be surprised and be prepared. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation today, the talk, the live, etc. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. Please check out different merch at the store that we have there. And I'm going to be honest, I'm going to have some Trump stuff in a day or two. As well. I'm telling you, so many people are waiting for different stuff to drop, and I'm waiting. I'm one of those people. I'm just gonna be legit with you. We started the day talking about Canada, so we got the free Canada shirts. Gosh, I saw a great rant from a TikToker from Canada who just like went in on Justin Trudeau. I was gonna share it, but I didn't have time to grab it when I thought about it. But I might show that tomorrow. But you guys can check out that merch at the store. Again, we got the You Are Not That Special mugs. So cute. You can trigger someone today in your life. We got the My Money, My Business, black tea mugs, all kinds of different stuff. And also, if you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. Again, Black Tea News, black like the color, tea like the drink. It's literally right there on the screen, actually. And go to the donate page. It costs a stream, run my website, all that good stuff. If you would like to help with that overhead, I really appreciate it. Whether it's a gift of $10, $20 more. Again, much love, much appreciation. Thank you guys for watching, for commenting. All that really does help. It's helped me to get to at least being monetized on YouTube, and that was a hard road, but we eventually, pierced that veil. Thank you guys to the, when you send super chats, all that stuff. If you're on Facebook, you can send stars. I have no idea why they kicked me off of monetization, like regular monetization on Facebook, but thank you guys when you send stars, etc. But I know people go to the website and they do give sometimes, so my heart goes out to you. I really do appreciate it. Also, my book, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion, is available for pre-order. So please go ahead and pre-order that book. The Kindle and Nook version, you guys can pre-order right now. It will be available in paperback as well, and audiobook, but I have not recorded the audiobook, so yeah, just to be frank, but I will. But my youngest sister actually did the art for it, so she did a great job with the baby hand and the reaching out for God. So I'm very excited for people to read it, to review it, to hopefully learn. It covers theology, biology, philosophy. So it covers a lot of stuff. And also, even if you have a non-religious perspective, I also make the case why it's important to have objective morality, and why there's societal harm to abortion, and all kinds of different stuff. And I do want to say and stress this, and it's stressed in the book. I don't write what I write or talk about what I talk about regarding this particular topic to condemn women. It's not why I do that. I do believe abortion is a heinous, evil thing. I do. And that it's a major human rights violation. I do. But I do recognize that there has been a conditioning going on for a long time, and Roe v. Wade fell, and women have legitimately felt like they were losing a major right, though it's not a right, at least not one that's recognized by the Constitution, and not one, it's certainly not a negative right or a natural right. However, women believe that now they're somehow inferior to men or unequal to men. At least when they say now we're unequal because they don't have this, it makes it seem like they're inherently inferior to men, or inherently not equal to men. Like Jennifer Lawrence said something along the lines of like, oh, you don't want women to be equal and not have, like, if they need this to be equal, I think there's a huge problem. So I address a lot of the cultural things, a lot of, the groundwork to kind of get us to this mentality, but I don't want women to be condemned. I want them to be redeemed. So I posted a video the other day about religion and abortion. It was more like responding to someone about it, and someone in my comments, they were pro-choice, and I replied to them, and they thanked me for my I guess demeanor in the conversation, and which I can match energy so come correctly, but I appreciate their comment, because I do want the line of communication to be open, and I definitely don't want people to think that I'm just sitting here judging people so harshly and I don't understand the complexities of the issue. I do understand, but the question is the best option to take a life? And if it is necessary, let's say it's necessary. I don't want it to be option A. I don't want it to be option B. I don't want it to be option C. It's got to be all the way at the end. So it'll be a good read, whether you're on the fence about the issue or not. It'll be a good read. So I'm excited about it coming out this month. So again, you can go ahead and pre-order it. Again, thank you guys for joining me, and I'm just looking over the comments really quick. Somebody from Canada just jumped in. It's over, bro. Thank you for jumping in, though. You can watch it back live, but or watch the playback. God bless you guys, and I will see you guys tomorrow.